the beginning that you have made.
2030s is a city that is growing fast. I mean, expanding, developing, moving to the north, moving mainly to the north, a little to the east and to the west, reaching the sea in the early 20s. Tel Aviv was not built on the seashore, so people are not aware of that. It was a very bourgeois city. I mean, that was the official ethos of the city. That was a city of bourgeois and petit bourgeois people who settled here. People who actually, by settling in Tel Aviv, rejected, if you want, the ethos of labor Zionism, of rural settlements, of cooperative settlements. It was about industry, it was about commerce.
Tel Aviv as a city, as an urban center, growing very rapidly, obviously as a bourgeois center, goes against the values or the ideas of Zionism.
Urban planning actually started in the mid-1920s. In response to a growing need. The city was expanding rapidly due to the very large wave of immigration. First neighborhood of Tel Aviv was already planned. Achuzat Bait was planned as a garden city, some say, but it wasn't really a city, it was really a very small neighborhood.
Jewish people came to Tel Aviv and intended indeed to somehow copy the society, the birth of the society in Odessa, as well as also the architectural language of this city. They took from different styles, architectural styles, elements, meaning from the classic periods, you have the columns, from the Muslim architecture, you have the windows with a peak at the end, you have arches, you have also, and that's the speciality of the local eclectic style, you have also Jewish elements. There is one significant building, it's called the Gymnasia Herzliya, which was destroyed in the 70s, and this was like a symbol for the eclectic style. It is a building in a very Mediterranean Muslim style. It was not a synagogue, not a religious building, but an educational building.
Planning came to the rescue, you might say, through a very fortuitous encounter between the city of Tel Aviv, which was a new city, and one of the forefathers of urban planning in the world, actually one of the people who initiated this whole discipline of town planning, of urban planning, and that is Patrick Geddes. Geddes planned Tel Aviv as a garden city for about 100,000 inhabitants, and the idea was that the city should expand to the north, basically as a pretty narrow city or along a narrow strip along the coast, along the Mediterranean coast.
Tel Aviv is an international style city, meaning that there are hundreds and thousands of buildings constructed in this style, but there are not cathedrals. We don't have symbols. It is an average, it is a style for everybody. People here are very simple, they are very functional, there are not a lot of rules between people. That's a typical description of the Israeli population. And you can see some parallels also in the modernistic architecture. There is no decorations, everything is straight, functional, but it is very comfortable to live with it.
Since we're talking about architecture without air conditioners, for example, they had to think very carefully about ventilation, for example. So you would see that all the apartments will have openings on all sides to allow air circulation through the apartments. And inside the apartments, they would not have walls, but they would develop sliding partitions to allow the opening of them so air could go through and ventilate the apartments.
You might say that Tel Aviv changed from a city of petite bourgeois capitalism in the 1920s, which was mixing ideas of private capital and high culture within the urban fabric, to a fully blown public administration, and at the centerpiece of this administration was actually the idea of modernist planning.
The Dizengoff Square was actually the heart of the city during the Bauhaus period. It is a square which was designed by an architect, a woman architect. The design of the buildings all over should be the same, with horizontal lines. And if you see this place, you feel this avant-garde spirit of the 20s and the 30s, and it is indeed absolutely futuristic square.
This idea that Tel Aviv should be planned as a modern city is actually very much the product of the cooperation between two people, one of them being Mayor Israel Rokach, who replaced Dizengoff as mayor after Dizengoff passed away in 1936. And the other is city engineer Yaakov Schiffman, or Yaakov Ben Sira in later years. Both of these people were engineers by education and also by outlook. And I think this very much affected the way they thought about Tel Aviv, conceptualized Tel Aviv throughout the 1930s and 40s. And they have been very, very influential in the development of Tel Aviv in those 2 decades.
The city of good life, the city of fun, the city of coffee shops, the city of theaters, the city of sophisticated shops. That was Tel Aviv in the 30s. And to an extent, nothing has changed.